Hi everyone, this is Mary Flower. Today I'm going to show how you can use my little Made by Fairies. The idea of this is that these little books, and I have them on eBay, I will put a link to them, were made by the little fairies. And I've already done a video on that, so if you want to watch that, you can. I'm going to take the little strings off of here. Here's another one just to show you kind of what they look like on the inside. And here's another one that's kind of on a bluish green, and the same kind of thing inside. Now, some people wonder, what do you do with these? Well, I'll show you what I am doing with them, and it's a lot of fun. And you might, if you do buy these for your little girls or something, this may be a good video. I'm hoping to show you what I do with them. I like to think that I was or am friends with the fairies, and they made this little fairy book for me. And when I do that, then I say, how do the fairies think? And what would they like me to put in here? And so I thought of it as kind of a field book, a field guide of little fairies. What I did at first is I took these, you can get these like at an Office Max or something. They're just stickers, labels, you know. And I will take a stencil like this. And I use a red pen because it gives it more of the feeling that it's a label for, and I use this one right up here somewhere. And I just take my pen and go around it, and I use a permanent pen. And this is how I make the little labels that you're going to see in my little book. So I just kind of give you an idea of what, little ideas. Let me first show you some of the things you can collect. Just find things either outside, inside, or just anywhere. But you have to pick kind of little things. Like, for instance, stamps. These are just plain stamps. Anything that you can think of that may have been left in the forest by a human is kind of a fun. Just use your imagination. This is a little pod with this fuzzy stuff coming out of it, and I'm probably going to use some of that, but it's a little bit delicate, and I'll show you how. There's little seeds right there. Then buttons. I found a little chain. And just things like an alcohol swab, and I found some sandpaper, not sawdust. This was from my porch. It flaked off actually from the porch, but it almost looks like bark. This is some old wax paper. And these are little dried flowers, and I've used some of those. And these are just some of the ideas of start collecting to put in your little field guide for fairies. Now, here's some other things that I have found. Yeah, I just put them in here. Pieces of lace. This is a old gauze for bandages. It's really old, actually. It's probably about 50, 60, 70 years old. I found it in something, and I thought it was cool, though. A pom-pom, a little bag, old recipe cards that look like they've been weathered. This is a dried apple core, and I've made it really, really flat. All kinds of fibers, little pieces of ribbon, all sorts of things. This is from an old bandage. Actually, it came from that bandage right there, but I liked the label, so I'm keeping that. And then you can dry, leaves and stuff like that, and then I put glitter in them, and maybe even things like, oh, this is from an old book, pieces of bark, and I'm going to show you what I do with those. But I'll show you so far what I've done. I've actually used this on the cover of some of the fairy books. It's kind of a netting that looks like it's grown moss on it. And if you look carefully, I have taken gold fairy dust thread, and I talk about in here, and put little beads that could have been found on the, in the forest. So anything you can think that a human would drop that's tiny, it's a good thing to put in here. So what I did was I took a little bit of gold thread, and it says gold thread is just spider webs spun with fairy dust in the sunshine. See that? And I've just taken and put fun things in here. This one got glued a little bit. Then it says, here's an old photograph, and I said, fairies are fascinated with photographs, and they keep them no matter who the photo is of, even if they don't know them. It says, fairies are scavengers, and they like to collect pieces of lace or anything like that because they use them for their fairy dresses. And these look like they're, old flowers that have dried up. And so I wrote about that. And I haven't finished this yet, but here's a little piece of an old scarf. It says, an old scarf dropped by humans can be made into many, many outfits for little fairies. I haven't written anything about this one, but it says... fairies use old pieces of paper, like you can see in here, to make their fairy books, but they're fascinated with language because they don't understand what it is, so they don't have a written language. In my imagination, you can do whatever you want, but that's the imagination I have about little fairies. And so here's one that it says, sometimes they encase the leaves with their fairy dust, which is baked by the moonlight. So it's in there. That's why I like to think glitter is like fairy dust baked by the moonlight. And I've written here, one of the favorite things that fairies like to do is embroidery work with their fairy gold dust thread. And so I wrote about that, and I thought this was really interesting, this piece here, so I kind of used it as an example. And let's see, over here. Oh, before I even started these books, to make them look more aged, I used this ink pad, and you'll notice there's a lot of different colors, and it's kind of smudged a lot because I've used it this way a lot, and it's kind of old, but I take this and just smudge up all the edges, and sometimes different colors will come out, but that's what's the first thing I do is just but you can take a plain color. Now I really love the color of cranberry, and I use that a lot, and I'll use that on the edges sometimes too, but it's fun to smudge up. I'll show you how pretty that looks. In fact, look at this. See that? I just love the color of the cranberry. And so I use that sometimes. Okay, over here, I've put some more things in here. Oh, little fibers. These are different fibers the fairies were collecting to make their clothing. They use it to make their clothing. So, and then I like to do the labels this way out of this to make it look like, I've labeled the field guide of things that the fairies like. There's more fibers. And then I wrote, they love to make pieces of art out of old sequins and things like that. And here it says that this was glued with both fairy dust in the sunshine and fairy dust in the moonshine. And I just put a little example. Just fun. And then here's another thing. They don't even get what tickets are, but they're fascinated with the words. So they collect them. And I've got more things here. I haven't labeled these yet. They're just little things that I've glued in, and I have to think about them and what I want them to say. On the back of this little tiny old picture, it just says the name Anne. But they love to collect little old pictures of people. So, and they love bright, shiny things like sequins. So I put in an example of a bunch of different kinds of sequins. And you can find this stuff anywhere. You know, look in your scrapbooking box, or, you know, maybe your mom or grandma has something that you can put in here. But I've used these cutters to kind of give it more of a fun edge, like up in here too. So, and then here I put a little piece of lace. Oh, this one I found, it was actually ribbon at Christmas time, and it had these little, oh, I think it was snowflakes, and I cut them out like this to make them look like wings of fairies, because they were already glittered and stuff. And I said, infant baby fairy wings are shed at 3 weeks, and the number 7 is a lucky number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So people, the fairies that collect these wings, because they just fall out of the little tiny cute infant babies at 3 weeks, and they're so beautiful, they want to save them. And sometimes, and they have a great ability to preserve little flowers, and so I put them in there because these were preserved by the fairies. These are more pieces of fabric they found on the forest floor, and I stuck them in here. And this is a fun thing to fill your little book with. Here's a piece of that gauze, and I haven't put a little tag on it yet because I just cut these out, but I'm going to. And so I just started putting things in here. As you can see, I have a lot of more pages. You can collect little feathers, and if you'll notice, this is a peppermint tea that held the tea bag, and I thought this is really cute. It would be something they would collect. And then maybe you can use some of these things like little wings. Now, another fun thing you can do is like, see this piece of bark that I found? It's fun just to put it in here somewhere, like, let's see, let me find a place. Here we go. Here's a place right here. And if you want to take a needle and thread, you can just basically hold the little piece of bark. Wait, we want to go down first, don't we? Okay. Let's see if we can do it. If you can see it from this far away. These little books are so small that and what I do is you can put a little bit of glue under this so it'll kind of hold it in place first. And you can maybe literally glue it in first before you do this. This is a little bit stretchy, and I wasn't going to actually use this, but I just wanted to demonstrate what you can do. Isn't that funny? It's so stretchy that, well, it's okay. Let me go around it a few times, and I'll show you what I've done here. And I just do it randomly and then bring it up this way and just basically tie it off. It might be better to use the actual thread, but this works too. And basically I just tied it in there like that. And then I'll put a label. I'll take one of these little labels and label it and why I put it in there. So those are the kind of fun things. You can take pieces of twigs and put it in there. I thought this one kind of had a really interesting shape to it, so I'll probably put that in there. And then remember I showed you the apple cores, but to make it more magical, I sprayed it with this matte finish and put the fairy dust on it, which is just glitter. You know, here's some, this is just plain glitter. And I did one with gold glitter. And so you can put these in the book too. You can either put them in plain, or it's fun to use a little bit of glitter on things because it kind of gives it that magical feeling, like the fairies have, spread dust, gold dust on it. Oh, there's fairy dust on it. So that's where I am with this one. And if you know it, it looks kind of worn and ruggedy, and that's a real word, ruggedy, but that's okay. But kind of used and old, which makes it kind of fun. And then I found a piece of fiber, and you can either tie it up the long way or the short way, one of the two. And basically you have yourself a little field guide for fairies, and you could use your imagination on these. And I will put the link for these little books. And they can get kind of thick. See, they start out not too thick, and I've added stuff in them, and it starts getting thick, but that's what makes it more intriguing. And you can do any kind of writing. So you want a Sharpie to, and you want these labels, and you'll want some kind of stencil. You will want glue. You will probably want a little bit of ink of some sort. You want this matte finish for wherever you want to put. You can put glitter all through the whole thing if you want. Spray it and just throw it on there. Whatever you want to do, but you want old stamps, and I showed you some of the fun things in here that you just, but anyway, the fun thing about this is that you can just almost find anything. Now, I found a couple of little stencils. I think I just found these at Walmart, and this has a mushrooms, fairies, and some other little, like, I don't know, kind of a fairy hut or something. And maybe it's to have captured fairies, I don't know. But I thought these were cute, and I'll probably use those in there. But I hope you enjoyed that, and follow the link to my eBay, and I have sold about 11 of these, and these are really, really cute. So you might want to get these for your children to make little tiny fairy book field guides. And it's so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from it. And I hope you can enjoy making your little fairy books. And give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me a comment. You know I love comments, and I always try to get back. And remember little feathers too. Okay, you guys have a nice day. And happy Fairy Day to you.